Hello and welcome to the Jexit podcast. I'm your host Riley, a former Jehovah's Witness who left the religion in 2019. I am really excited about this week's episode because I have with me a very dear friend by the name of Lois. Lo, as she likes to be called, and I have known each other since we were kids. In fact, we grew up in the same congregation, so we've been friends for a very long time. And she's here today to speak about her experience in the religion of Jehovah's Witnesses. Hi, Lo. Thanks for joining me.
No, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to doing this for a long time, so thank you.
Okay, so let's start. Would you like to just start off by telling us how you became a Jehovah's Witness and what your childhood was like being raised in the religion?
Okay, so it wasn't by choice becoming a witness. So my mum and dad were studying. I was already born, and at 3 months old, they got married. They were encouraged to get married. So it was my mum. I think my dad was studying. I don't think my mum was studying, but eventually she got baptized, and then they got married. And then, I was the first one out of 6 siblings to be born outside of wedlock, but the rest of them were born inside the wedlock.
What was it like growing up being raised as a JW?
Hell, it was awful. It was so horrible. It was a lot. I didn't have a good time. Okay, there were some good times. Made some quite nice friends there. My dad was quite militant and quite very authoritarian, and it was literally like feeling so restricted. We couldn't do anything. So when I used to go to school and stuff like that, I felt like I could be free. Any time that I wasn't at home or in the meetings, I could truly be me. Not that I was any different or any much more different. I had more release. I felt more of a release being under my dad's roof and going to the meetings and stuff. Then when you went to the meetings, you had to put on this persona that, you're this law-abiding citizen, Christian, should I say. And so it was hard. It was really, really hard. Obviously not just the social aspect of like not joining in with birthdays and stuff like that at school, but just because, we're told to be doing one thing. We were raised in a really strict way, really, really strict. And then to witness like my parent, because my mum and dad divorced or split up when I was 9 years old. And basically, he was so strict on us, do this, do that, look up every scripture in the watchtower. If you haven't done it, you've not done it properly. And if even down to friends in the Kingdom Hall, if they're not studying, then you shouldn't be friends with them. I'm like, so who can we be friends with? Like, if we can't be friends with people at school and you're even dictating who we can be friends with because their family doesn't study the same way we do, it just felt like very, we had no one. That's what it felt like. So basically he was so strict, do this, do that, look up every scripture. He was so like thorough with what we should be doing, but yet he was leading a double life the whole time. Which in what he made us do, and then seeing his actions and conduct, it was like a bit of it messed up with your mind. He was doing whatever the hell he wanted. Yeah. And then going to the meetings looking squeaky clean.
Yeah, that's the case with a lot of JW families, because the religion focuses so much on appearances and what you look like to others. That becomes like the most important thing.
100%. I completely resonate with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So at some point you got baptized. Could you just tell us how old you were and what led up to that decision?
So at the time of me getting baptized, I was 13 years old. And, I was having a relatively okay time. However, my dad was disfellowshipped at the time. And he was like, he had told us previously, if you're not baptized by the time you're 14, and say to my brothers and sisters, if you're not baptized by the time you're this or that. So it wasn't really a choice that we made ourselves. It was under duress, basically. But ultimately, it didn't look good, even though he was disfellowshipped. If his children were getting baptized, then it looked good on him. Oh, look, he's still serving Jehovah, and he's still like steadfast in the truth, even though he's disfellowshipped. His kids are still, he must really be like doing a good job with the kids because they're getting baptized. It was all to his glory. So I got baptized because I felt I didn't have a choice, and that was my cutoff, 14. So so I got baptized when I was 13.
You mentioned your dad was disfellowshipped at the time. Now, since we were in the same congregation, I remember when your dad was disfellowshipped. But the thing that I most remember is how many times he got disfellowshipped. I don't remember the exact number, but it seemed like every couple of years your dad got disfellowshipped.
I think in total it was 3 times. However, he probably was up for public reproof a lot. That's probably what I remember. 3 times. And me and my sister are responsible for getting him disfellowshipped one of those times as well.
Can you just tell us a little bit more about that if you feel comfortable doing so?
We had a really good uncle figure who was an elder at the time that we basically were really close to, and he was like an outlet for us because he knew, okay, as I don't want to put it on him, but a lot of people knew that my dad was quite a warped person in the ways he was, and I'm not here to just demonize him or anything, but anyway, so we would talk. Basically, we just tell him everything. And then we would just say, because my dad had girlfriends and stuff and he used to hide them and blah blah blah, but we came up with this thing one day, and he had this lady friend that he was seeing, but he would just say it was just a friend or whatever, but obviously we knew that it wasn't. She wasn't, and her car was parked outside. But basically he told me on one of his judicials, and actually the elder told me, he shouldn't have told me this, by the way, that he just ended up saying, I'm a single father, I'm weak and all this stuff, and saying that just because her car's parked outside, I was borrowing it. But eventually he just tripped up and ended up exposing himself. So, and he never knew, unless he listens to this podcast, that it was us that we put that in motion, basically.
Wow.
Couldn't understand how they knew. He just couldn't fathom. He was getting away with it for so long. He just couldn't understand how all of a sudden they were privy to this information.
Maybe he thought it was Jehovah revealing it.
I don't know what he thinks. I don't know.
Did you feel conflicted at all about telling the elders that?
No, I didn't actually. I never felt the guilt, because I knew he was doing wrong things behind closed doors. So, and we were made to be like mini soldiers of the truth. So therefore we thought we were doing the right thing. And obviously the thing where you shouldn't like be covering up over sins and stuff like that. So and also we were just kids. It wasn't like we were just, doing it to catch him out or anything like that. I think we were just genuinely just being honest, and it wasn't to like bring him down or anything like that. It was just, I don't know. It's just, we just felt like he was a safe haven to speak to. And there was things that we'd spoken about, and people, other elders would talk to us about it. We'd gone on holiday before one time when he's been disfellowshipped. And obviously the people in St. Lucia had no idea that he was disfellowshipped. So he was acting like he was like a regular brother. He even gave a talk as a disfellowshipped person. And,
wow.
And then they obviously found out about it. If you can ever believe this, a brother from our congregation, Nunhead at the time, happened to be in St. Lucia. And so that wasn't us. That wasn't us that exposed that. That was obviously the person that was there. Randomly, he happened to be there. And obviously, I'm sure that he said something. And then when I was on the ministry one time with one of the elders, and he found out, but then he was subtly, looking back now, he was asking, why didn't we say anything? And but he wasn't blaming us. He was just, trying to piece the pieces together, but asking questions. Obviously, I was too young to understand what he was doing, but I understand what he was doing now as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think he was probably getting confirmation as well that actually happened.
Right. So I can imagine it must have been really confusing Or maybe not confusing, actually. I mean, you're being taught one thing by your dad, but then seeing him not following the rules. Did that make you feel confused, or did you just see him as a hypocrite, or did it cause you to have any doubts about the religion itself?
No, actually, I didn't have doubts about the religion. I just saw him for just being who he was, like a fake, basically. And we're all this representation of this person, and I the truth made sense to me, and how it was presented to me, and we did enjoy being around, like, our friends in the congregation and stuff like that. But it didn't confuse me with the truth. His behavior confused me, if that makes sense.
Right. That must have been really difficult.
Yeah, it was difficult, but and at the same time, it was conflicting in the sense that how can you teach us these things, but you're doing so much bad? You know what I mean? I'm not
Mm.
even like a lot, and it's like probably he just thought we're his kids. We'd never just say anything or it would never come out. I just think he really just felt that we wouldn't. I don't know. Yeah, it was crazy. And there was one time there was a talk being given. I always remember this. We was in Nunhead, and they were talking about people that go out drinking, going partying and clubbing and stuff. And me just being my childlike self was nodding at everything that they were saying, was nodding in my dad's direction. And my dad went, "Stop that." And he pulled me close and was like, "Stop doing that right now." Because basically what I didn't realize I was doing it. I was just saying, "Oh, that's what my dad does. That's what my dad does." But I was nodding in his direction every time. So I won't forget that as well, because I really felt like he had people fooled. Maybe he did.
I remember coming home from work one day and seeing you on your way to the meeting. I think it was during one of the times when it was after you were baptized, but it was during one of the times when your dad was disfellowshipped and you were going to the meeting by yourself.
Was I
It was,
walking on the bus?
I think you were walking to the bus stop,
As in literally me by myself?
you
Or
by
was
yourself.
oh
Yeah, you were on your way to the meeting. It was in Bermondsey. It was, Grange Road in Bermondsey.
oh yeah.
Yeah, on the corner, just where that Barclays Bank used to be.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember seeing you because there was a bus stop that used to be right there, and I remember seeing you walk there. I was walking past there on my way home from work, and the thing that stands out to me about that memory is just I was so impressed that you were going to the meeting alone on your own, and I thought, wow, that is so encouraging to use JW speak.
You know what? If it was just after I was baptized, I was still wet behind the ears, wasn't I? So I was still like in that mode of
Yeah,
like, I'm going regardless, because my mum and dad, they're divorced now. They were
yeah,
divorced when I was 10. So if my mum lives in that area, so I was probably at my mum's going to the meeting.
yeah, yeah. I was really impressed at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was probably still like in that, yes, faithful and,
Yeah,
steadfast as going to the meeting no matter what, because my mum wasn't really going either. So that was me taking my stand.
yeah.
Yeah.
But at some point, obviously, something changed, and you left the religion. Can you just tell us about that? How all of that happened?
It wasn't like a straightforward thing either. It was
Mm,
like I was in and out for years, because of the guilt. I just kept going back. And I think I left when I was fifth. So I got baptized at 13, came out when I was 15, but I hadn't been disfellowshipped or anything. I'd come out, was living my quote unquote worldly life or whatever. And then I started studying. Obviously, I was always in contact with that brother that was like a rock to me and my siblings. Well, more so
mm,
me throughout that period of time, because there was times where my dad was like, "You can't even see your mum," and we were like, "Why? Doesn't the Bible say honor your father and your mother?" And he would go beyond the scriptures, and then even that brother would back us and say, "Well, actually, yeah, they have to, because it's still their mum." You know what I mean? And he'd be like, "Why are you defending the kids, or why are you backing them? You should back me," that kind of thing. I'm sorry,
mm.
I've got. What was the question again? Oh yeah, so basically, I left. I left. I went back on and off. I think I went back in my 20s, and I'd had my first daughter, and I was like still with her father. And then I was coming back, and then I was pregnant with my second daughter, and I wasn't disfellowship. I had judicial. Because I'd been out for so long, I was practically like coming back, so they didn't disfellowship me, and they didn't realise I was living with their dad. So I had a judicial for that, but nothing came of that because I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of thing. I don't know how
Mm.
I was trying to get away with that, but either way, it just, from when my memory serves me, I came back. Then I ended up moving out into another property that was bigger, and I moved in with the girls by myself. And then that's when I was like on the straight and narrow for about 6-7 years. Yeah.
Mm.
Actually, then when I had my daughter, I got disfellowshipped when she was either 6 months or she was either 10 months old. I think she was 10 months old when I was disfellowshipped, and then I came back after 10 months. Oh no, she was 6 months old and I got disfellowshipped for 10 months. Yeah.
I remember that time because I remember when you got reinstated, I was sitting at work one day, on my laptop, and then I got a message from you on MSN Messenger saying I've been reinstated.
Oh yeah, because it was when I knew I was being disfellowshipped, I'd wrote something on Facebook saying I'm in
Yeah,
deep something, and then you wrote something, are you okay, or whatever, and then I wrote back, I'm going to be disfellowshipped, and then, oh yeah, I'm glad you brought this up actually.
yeah,
I'm going to be disfellowshipped, and there was nothing for all you wrote back. Literally was like a kiss, an X. That was it, and then you just like
really?
cut me off.
Oh no, I don't even remember that.
I'm not holding that against you. It was literally MSN Messenger, and I said, or it was a Facebook Messenger, and I said, oh, I'm going to be out for a bit or whatever. And it wasn't like, oh, I'll see you soon, I'll take care. It was literally like an X, and that was it. You cut off, you cut off the.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
Don't be sad, don't be sorry, or anything like that. It was just like we all did these things, and we all thought that was not.
Mm.
But you still sent that. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't so cold as if to go. You just completely just mid conversation, just like cancelled the conversation, the chat. So yeah, and I just that was a memory you just unlocked for me.
Honestly, I still feel bad about all the people that I shunned when I was fully indoctrinated and inside. I've actually reached out to a couple of people that I shunned to apologize.
Oh
I've actually
really?
done that. Yeah, I have done that. I have done that. One didn't go so well because they're back in now.
Back in,
And
okay.
yeah, and now they are shunning me. But
Right. I mean,
yeah,
swings and roundabouts. You did what you
it
thought
does.
at, well, that was right at that time. And I get that you felt you had to say sorry, but now they're doing it back to you. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's crazy there.
yeah. I mean, I don't hold it against anyone
Of course.
who's shunning
No.
me if they ever wake up, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So after you got reinstated, then what happened?
When I got reinstated, I was trying to live a good life, but it was so hard. I was so lonely. I didn't realize it was anxiety and depression that I was going through. I had no
Mm,
idea. So the expectation on me, not just me, everyone has their own circumstances. But as a single mum at the time, well, I still am a single mum, but going to work, having to study, do family worship, do my own personal study, then on a Saturday, get up at the crack of dawn, or to go on the ministry with 2 children under 5, that was hard. And I think, you know what? One was in a pram and one was on her scooter. And I will remember going to the ministry, and one of the sisters was like, yeah, not playtime. She shouldn't be on that scooter. And I'm like, do you actually not see that I've actually made it out onto the ministry, and all you can point a finger at is that my daughter's on the scooter, and actually not the fact that I got myself together to get there on time and bring them out with me. It was the fastest way of getting her there, and it wasn't like she was like having a whale of a time on it. It was just a means to get us there quickly. So yeah, I do
mm,
remember it was really hard work, draining, and I mean, people would support. I mean, some people were supportive and some people weren't. And you know, it's not their job to, it's not everyone's job to like help me. That was my life choice. Do you know what I mean? But I never felt good enough. And I used to have like shepherding calls and stuff like that, and really encouraging talks and prayers said on my behalf. But I just felt crap all the time. I just never was I was never making the mark. Um, Loving talks and stuff. It's just I was always falling short in some way, or even my natural human urges and, you know, desires and stuff like that. I had to like push all that down. And I'm not even talking about like sexual desires. I'm just talk what I am, but I'm talking about just me being Lois. Like, I just didn't know who I was. I was being someone that I thought I should be.
That must have been really hard.
It was like a, a numbing, like continually numbing me down. Obviously, like it is a form of brainwashing what was happening. I just felt like I was disappearing. Yeah, that's what it felt like. And the only person, well, the only people that I had close to me was that brother, that elder, that always saw me for me, no matter what I did. And even when I confessed stuff that I'd done, he, I'd already confessed it to elders already. I'd just tell him. I literally told him everything. He was just like so like compassionate and so like understanding.
Mm.
Yeah, so that helped a lot. And I don't think I would be where I was today. And I know that sounds quite a bit crazy, but or would have come back into the truth if it hadn't have been for him. I'd even had my own family members distance themselves, and instead of encouraging me, even when I wasn't disfellowshipped, like someone in need and I was in need, instead of like lending a helping hand or seeing how I was, it was like, oh, I'm going to distance myself away from you because, you know, I'm probably bad association or something, even though I wasn't doing anything wrong at the time. So even, um, not shunned, but like, you know, being distanced from within, you know, the truth. And one of my family members, well, there was quite a few, you know, there's quite a few of us. One of my cousins were in the same congregation as me, and that was hard. That wasn't
Mm.
nice. When I was trying to come back because there was phases where I was in and out, and and then there was people like long term friends that you'd know, um, talking to me, and then my own cousin would be going, "You need to be careful." So really don't see how that's encouraging anyone. I just feel it to be so hypocritical and judgmental. I just don't know how anyone can do that.
Mm. Mm. So how long did you go through that before leaving the religion for the
Oh, right.
final time?
Yeah. So the first time I got disfellowshipped, so I'm disfellowshipped, currently disfellowshipped. And the second time, so during that period of time, I did end up caught in two brothers. One I got engaged to that ended horrendously. I won't go into much details there because I just don't want to give him the airtime, but he really, you know, we had a joint judicial. And when I say this dude threw me under the bus, yeah, but it was to save his own skin. But what he didn't realize was that it didn't work basically. And they
Mm-hmm.
ended up doing a public reproof on him because at the time he took advantage. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that anymore. However, there was another brother I was caught in, lovely guy. We didn't, and this is what made me laugh because it's like you don't want us to have people associating in the world or go for people that are not in Jehovah's arrangement or organization. But when I found somebody that I was seeing in or courting, it was like, you lots are not a match. What they couldn't understand. But we got on really well. Maybe they were right. We wasn't a great match. However, like he was a really nice person and like we got on so well. But yet still it's like, well, who can I go out with? Like and it was like I just felt like no matter where I turned or no matter what I did, it was well, I didn't make a first bad choice with the first person I courted. And the second one might not have been a great match, but it was a hell of a lot better than the other person. And it was just like, I can't catch a break. So anyway, that what happened there? I think that kind of like fizzled out. We never fell out or anything like that. And then what happened was I met my son's dad, and by this point I was like literally mentally exhausted and drained. I'm like, you know what? I just don't know if I can live up to it right now. And so I'd I would started seeing him. I didn't get pregnant or anything like that, but was seeing someone in the world. And then I just kind of like gave up. And then on my last judicial, it was like, to be fair, the brothers were really, I couldn't have asked for better elders, to be fair, on my last judicial. They were so loving. They were so nice. And I know not everybody has that experience. I know that. And it's like, what I basically wanted to be disfellowshipped. I just wanted a break. I said, I just can't do this no more. I just can't. I haven't got anything more to give anymore. I'm done. I'm depleted. And they were like, well, if you want to come back, like, I didn't even give them the chance to really disfellowship me, because they were like, you got to have this appeal period or something like that, don't you?
Mm.
Right? 7 days or something like that.
That's right. Yeah.
It was like, yeah, just do it. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just done right now. And I just wanted to have a sabbatical, basically, to do what I wanted. But that sabbatical lasted like 10 years. And and then I think even up until, because so that was the last time I got this fellowship. Then you contacted me, and I was like, you do know I'm disfellowshipped, right? And it's like, yeah, I know. And I just was like so confused. And I was, don't tell me, physically out, mentally in POMI, physically out, mentally, POMI. I was POMI. So I'm thinking, I'm all up to like, 3 or 4 years ago, baking memorial bread, even though I'm disfellowshipped, thinking like, at least I'm trying to celebrate the memorial. I made my own memorial bread, right? And then
wow.
I can't believe that I done that. And I was still honed, like the guilt, and I was still like in that mindset, even though I wasn't living life, a Christian life, so to speak, or Jehovah's Witness life. I wasn't living that. I still believed, and I still felt God, Jehovah was looking at me, and I'm seeing all the wrong things. And I always had in my head I would go back eventually. But as time progressed and carried on, I just knew that I just accepted my fate, that, you know what, I'm going to just die at Armageddon, because I don't really see that I can live up to, I don't know if I can bring my conduct and behavior back in line again with the teachings and the rules and the regulations. I don't think I can do it. So I thought, I'm just going to die, and I just made peace with it. Yeah.
Wow. So at this time you're physically out, mentally in. What made the change to being physically out and mentally out?
Actually, your contact was quite pivotal, actually, because even when you contacted me and then you said you did some videos and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I should look at these videos. I was literally scared. You know that fear when you go to
I know it well.
things. I'm like, should I be? And I went out, I reached out to a fellow, she's not disfellowshipped, but I think she just faded. And then she kind of like, I think he's just saying his point of view. She hasn't come out as like, being disassociated or anything like that. I think she just, faded out. But she was like, it's just, I said, oh, Martin's contacted me, like, and he said he had videos and stuff like that. And I was like worried. You can understand why, right?
Of course.
And then that's what made me think, you know what? I will give them a go. I will give it a watch, because he's just expressing himself. And when I did, it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't that fear mongering. That wasn't that I wasn't going to be like attacked by demons and stuff like that. I wasn't going to I wasn't struck down dead by watching a video on someone expressing their experience of life as a Jehovah's Witness. And actually really opened my eyes. And then I just thought, you know what? And I started watching other ones, and I started watching other people's ones as well. And then my eyes really started getting there, really started understanding and getting it, that actually people are just, no one's necessarily putting it down or saying they're bad or anything like that. Well, some people are, but it was more to do with their experiences and what happened to them. Nothing really to do with, well, those are the ones that I was watching before I started getting introduced to like bigger issues that were going on.
Yeah. That's really interesting that you say that. When you spoke about watching my videos for the first time and that it wasn't what you expected, I understand completely, because that's exactly the same experience I had when I watched my first quote unquote apostate video. It was just so far removed from the stereotype that had been indoctrinated into me of what apostates were supposed to be like. It was so completely different. And I think that was a really, really good thing, you know. And if the first XJW YouTube channel or video that I watched was just like the stereotype that I had in my mind, I probably wouldn't have watched any more.
Right.
But the fact that it was so different, it was, I hate using this word, but sometimes I can't think of a better one. Encouraging. It really
Yeah.
encouraged me to watch more.
Yes. Because I saw normal people, everyday, regular people like me and you, just talking normally. They didn't have devil horns on or anything like that. They weren't all dressed in black with black. They were just regular people, like,
Yeah.
and it really did resonate with that, you know. And a lot of things that were happening, like things that I couldn't reconcile with, always about worldly people, this worldly people, that you've been indoctrinated that they're bad and all that. But I knew they were good people because I always had friends, worldly friends. Always. I never had them. I always had them. And I guess they were instrumental for me because if I didn't, I probably would have gone back. But I had a lot of support, and I had a social network to like fall back on because I'd always maintained those friendships throughout.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
I had my whole life around, well, I did have my whole life around the witnesses, but I still had that other social safety net behind me. Do you know what I mean? Support
Yeah.
network, I guess. Yeah.
And when you first started, I mean, when you left the last time and you'd been in the world for 10 years, I think it is, you said, how did, it's more now, obviously, but how did you find the difference or the contrast between what worldly people are actually like and what the religion says that they are like?
Well, obviously, we grew up with a lot of images of what these worldly people were. And obviously, I just feel like the contrast, there wasn't, I just always saw them as decent people, like whether they were witnesses or not. Do you know what I mean? So I had a
Mm,
witness dad, and he was one of the not a very nice person. Do you know what I mean? So that what I was taught and what I saw for myself, I just couldn't understand why would these people would be condemned. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And they hadn't done anything particularly wrong except for not worshipping Jehovah. They hadn't done
Mm,
anything wrong. They were good, decent people, and yeah. And so I guess I found if I did justify it in my head, they were probably the best of of a bad bunch. If you know, if that makes sense, that I picked good people to be friends with.
yeah. After I got disfellowshipped and started like hanging out long term with quote unquote worldly people for the first time, that was the first thing that I found really difficult to reconcile, was how they were nothing like the religion said that they are like.
Hmm.
Absolutely nothing like it at all. And it actually made me think, well, if this isn't true, what else isn't true? I definitely remember having that moment where that thought came into my mind.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I joined a Facebook group and a private WhatsApp group and stuff, and that really opened my eyes to so much that I'm like, wow, that really blew the lid off everything. Like, and I must say, like you and a couple of other people really did. I remember coming in quite edgy to the WhatsApp group, and I was like, oh, you know what? What do you still believe in? And I'm like, oh, well, I still believe in that because I did. I still believed in Armageddon. And then it was like, and someone was like saying, yeah, but this, that, and the other. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, this is what I still believe. You ask me what I believe. Just go easy on me. I'm still like fragile. Do you know what I mean? It was like, if you ask me what I believe, then don't. Anyway, that's not the case anymore, but that's how I felt at the time. But because I was still in that mindset of thinking, of believing, you know, the doctrine, I guess, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I still to this day remain socially awkward. And me transitioning from 10 years out, I still having to like rectify or adjust my behaviors. Sometimes it's like accidentally, well, I'm trying to integrate myself into the world. For example, like I've got loads of gay friends, and because I dance now, and I was always a dancer, but I just had to knock that on the head because you wasn't allowed to pursue things like that in the truth. But it's like, I feel like when I'm around gay people, I have to let them know that I'm okay with them being gay, or I accept them. But I'm like, why am I trying to do that? That they don't need me to accept them. Do you know what I mean? Who the hell do I think I am? I was just doing the most, and I was just trying to go like, I accept you, but because it's like at the time I know my beliefs were wrong, and I just wanted to make them feel um like I wasn't being judged, but they didn't even know my past. So I'll go out my way to be extra nice to them and stuff like that. I'm like, why are you doing that? And that made me look weird.
Yeah.
It was coming from a good place, but actually I didn't realize it was actually kind of maybe like patronizing, or like, I wasn't saying I accept you. I wasn't actually saying that. I just felt that I knew I wanted to make up for my past biases and judgments by like completely accepting everybody for who they are. But I think I was just going too far with it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. Like, they don't know your past. They don't have to know every detail of like why you're being so. Do you know what I mean? I just felt like I was going above and beyond, and I could
Yeah.
just like, instead of just being cool with them. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get it. I totally get it. I mean, my homophobic past is something that I feel so much guilt over, so much guilt over, because it's not just the fact that the religion is homophobic and I had homophobic beliefs. I was even an extreme homophobe for a JW. You
Oh,
know, I was like on the extreme end. I
oh,
was more homophobic than the religion requires a JW to be. So
oh,
I feel so bad about that. Um, I don't necessarily go through that social awkwardness when I interact with gay people now, but it's always in the back of my mind, the kind
yeah,
of things that I used to think, say, and believe. So much so that actually, I'll tell you this experience. So last weekend, Marsha and I went on an XJW meetup in Brighton.
yeah,
And you know, Brighton is like the gay capital of the United Kingdom.
yeah,
So we were in Brighton and we had a really good time actually. But we were on the beach and there was a proposal on the beach, and it was two women, and one of them surprised the other one and got down on one knee and proposed. And if I wasn't in company, I would have burst out crying.
oh,
And I find myself reacting that way a lot when I see gay couples in public being openly loving and affectionate to each other. It really does affect me emotionally because I'm in a happy relationship now, albeit a straight relationship, but
yeah,
I feel so much joy and happiness and fulfillment in my relationship now, which I never had in my first marriage.
yeah,
When I see a gay couple, I think to myself, how could I ever have been okay with denying them
happiness,
what
isn't it?
I have now? Because I know how important the happiness is that I have now. I know how important that is to me. And to think that there was a time when I would have denied someone else from experiencing that just because their relationship didn't fall into the bounds of what I thought was normal. And it makes me feel, it really overwhelms me so much whenever I see that. And I just can't hold it in.
No,
There have been times where I've been walking on the street and tears have just come down my face, you know?
mhm.
Yeah, I totally understand.
Yeah, I just felt like I had a lot of trying to right the wrongs of my previous past. I wasn't homophobic. I just, because I had a friend. I have a friend that's gay, and she was the one that stood by me, even though through all my prejudices from the religion and stuff, the things that I was saying, look, you can take my kids out, I don't mind. Like, just don't kiss in front of them and stuff like that. And then she was trying to talk to me, say, why would I say that to her and not to like a straight couple? And I said, well, just because that's right for you doesn't mean it's right, blah blah. And I really thought that I was like talk in some real sense, do you know what I mean? But I didn't realize how offensive I was being. And even though I'd done those things and said things that were quite offensive, she was one of the people actually that opened my eyes, because she also said to me, you know that you're actually a better person when you're not. She's been with me from childhood since like 5. When I was in and out, she always saw me conflicted. She said that it seemed like you're always like tormented and conflicted when you're in the religion, but when you're out, you're more relaxed, and you seem like you're an actual better person because you're at ease with yourself. And she was the one who told me I was indoctrinated. And until she said it, it didn't even occur to me that I was classed as like a true friend, because like if that was done to me, I'll probably like, we'll see you later, I'm not going to speak to you again. But I think she knew me well enough to know that it wasn't me speaking really, it was the religion's words,
Yeah,
and taught from childhood and stuff that had stuck with me and been indoctrinated with. So but what I love about it is that she saw me and forgave all that, and and we still remain like really good friends to this day.
that's beautiful. I'm really glad that you have a friend like that. Honestly.
A day one friend through everything. And even when I wasn't, not that I wasn't necessarily accepting, I accepted her being gay, but not that she needs me to accept it. But even to the point where I was still in it, like when she did get married, I was conflicted about signing her registry form,
Mhm.
she'd asked me, and then she made the decision not to, because she didn't want to betray herself. Someone's not really sure about whether they should sign the marriage certificate. Then she just basically took that off my hands and gave it to someone else. And I was a bit hurt by that, but then I understood, actually, why should she have someone who's not sure about signing it? Why should I sign it?
Mm.
But yeah, we're good friends. We've gotten over that. We spoke about it, and it's not always been easy, but that's how I know that she's like a true friend.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I've made some really, really good friends that I know will be friends for life, since leaving the religion. People that went above and beyond for me, since leaving and since my marriage broke up and all of those things. And it's interesting you mentioned earlier about social awkwardness. I experienced that in so many different aspects of my life, not just social interactions, but I feel like it was more so back then when I was newly out, but still to some degree now, there are certain areas of my life where I feel very behind or
Yeah,
delayed, you know.
100%. Yeah, I get that.
And what I've found is having like mentors for different aspects of life, people who give you advice or guide you in that particular thing. So like Marsha, she's been like my mentor when it comes to social situations. Before Marsha and I met, another good friend of mine, she was like a mentor when it came to like dating and relationships. And I have another friend who's sort of like my mentor when it comes to politics and, learning about politics and like voting and stuff like that. She's actually a politician herself. So I've actually found that really, really helpful. Have you had a similar experience?
Yeah, I think you'll be proud of me. I actually registered to vote the other day for the very first time in my life. I thought, you know what, I am going to vote, and the moments always pass me by. But this time, I was like, no, I'm actually going to vote this time, and I felt so empowered doing it. And you have that guilt, like you still want to stay neutral, but actually, your voice can matter if you voice it. If lots of people are voicing it at the same time, so I know that you started voting now. Is that correct? Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually can't wait for my polling card to come through the letterbox. I'm going to
That's
vote for the
excellent.
first time in 42. Well, when are you allowed to vote? 18.
Yeah,
Okay, however many years ago that was. So another 22 years ago?
yeah.
Yeah. I've never voted in my whole life. Can't
Wow.
wait to do it.
That's excellent. That is
That's all
excellent.
right.
I remember being so excited the first time I voted. I remember being so excited. It made me feel like a proper person.
I know, proper member of society.
Yeah,
I, but absolutely, you're so right when it comes to like being delayed in things, like
yeah,
simple everyday things that people take for granted. That we're like, it's almost like a PTSD, almost like should you be doing it? Oh no, I can't. And you have to really talk to yourself sometimes, or talk to
yeah.
other people to know that am I going crazy? Like, is this? It's okay to do this, because you do get that. It's that ingrained thing that I just don't think, no matter how well or how free you live your life, I just don't think it ever leaves you, especially if you've been in the religion for since childhood. I just don't think it
Oh,
leaves you.
absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't. It's like, um, after Marsha and I got together, we'd been together a few months, not quite a year yet, but we went traveling around the United States for 3 months, and we were staying with her friends and my family. And there'd be times where we'd all be together, like watching TV, me, Marsha, and whoever we were staying with at the time. And then it would get late, and then Marsha would say, "Okay, I'm tired. Are you ready for bed?" And then I'd get nervous, and I'd look around. I'd be like,
Why? What?
"I was like,
Oh, what? Oh, because it's like if you're going to bed, then things might happen there. So it's like
yeah."
you're still under that. Who's watching? But who? Yeah, yeah. I get it. I completely get that.
I'll be like nervous that the fact that she said out loud that we were going to bed together, because I still felt like we were doing something
Wrong.
wrong.
I know.
I didn't always, I didn't feel like we were doing something wrong. But when she said it out loud for a split second, I felt like, you're not supposed
Exposed.
to tell people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a grown adult. I'm not doing anything wrong. It was
But
just
for
like,
years, you're told it's wrong. You're told
yeah,
it's wrong.
exactly. Exactly. And I would, yeah, for a moment, a brief moment, I would get that funny, awkward feeling. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. It doesn't, I mean, that's left me now. I don't, or we're married now. So
Do you feel like if you wasn't married, do you feel like you still might feel that a little bit, but you feel like because
no,
you are married now? No.
no. I didn't, I wouldn't feel like that still now, even if we weren't married. No, that didn't
Okay.
last for very long.
Oh, okay.
It was a very, very brief period of time where I felt like that. But there are other things that other feelings that I still have that I think will stick around for a really long time, if not for the rest of my life. Like when certain things happen in the world, like natural disasters or conflicts, wars and stuff like that. I don't believe that it's a sign of the times, but sometimes my body reacts as if I do believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That nervous feeling. I mean, I remember, we both grew up in the 90s. I remember getting really scared every time I watched the news and heard anything about Saddam Hussein. I thought I thought that was like King of the North, King of the South type thing. It's like
Yeah.
we were
Yeah.
all wondering who the King of the North was going to be. And every time Saddam Hussein was in the news, I was thinking, oh my goodness, is this going to be it?
Yeah. I
you
mean,
know?
when you said that when I left and stuff like that, what woke me up? But there was always things that I'd always be questioning, even though when I was actually practicing Jehovah's Witness, for example, I just couldn't understand why two people eating a piece of fruit means that everyone has to suffer for so long. And I
Yeah.
just couldn't understand why, if God was so loving, why would he make in not just children die or go through heinous things? Why would these bad things happen on such a massive scale for so long? I just could not get, I just couldn't get that. And
Mm,
also how things kept changing, how they kept changing who the faithful and discreet slave was, how 1940, that never ever made any sense to me.
mm,
The virgins with the oil burners, all those things.
yeah.
I was always questioning, and things just didn't make sense. But then you just have that cognitive dissonance and think, okay, well, you just go
Yeah.
along with it.
Yeah.
And those are the things that, even the Noah's Ark thing, how did he fit every single animal that weren't
Mm-mm.
even probably what about polar bears? How did he even get polar bears onto the boat? Do you know what I'm saying? Those things blew my mind. I just didn't understand. And if God was so loving and forgiving, why would he slaughter people? And then God never lies. But then if it was for a righteous reason, then it would be, I can't remember, word for word, all the stories and stuff I did back then, but why is it then justified, his anger or certain prophets or whatever telling porcupines at the time, you know, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So I was always questioning, and those were like always niggling at me, but then the lid just got blown off of those once I did fully come out and I could actually research properly and actually see for myself that it's just a crock of
yeah. Was there one singular thing that was like the final nail in the coffin that cemented it in your mind that this is not the truth?
Okay, there's a couple of things before the sexual abuse stuff, because I was out by that time. Well, okay, that I can't understand why Jehovah would allow sexual predators as shepherds. That just blows my mind. That does not make any sense. If there is a Holy Spirit, then his Holy Spirit would surely detect these things in people. That doesn't make sense. There was another thing. Oh, I used to always think, why we have a God governing body, where the governing body is. I always thought everything that's running this world is mainly old, white, English or American men. And I just thought, why is this religion headed or led by practically all white men? Maybe not so much. Okay, maybe that's one or two men of color. And that's one thing that really niggled at me as well. Why is it being led by people that are white, men, and also from America? And I thought everything was American influenced and stuff. And I thought, why is it not being headed by a little tribe in Africa or something like that? Do you know what I mean? I couldn't, and that got my radar going, that did.
Yeah.
But I guess the sexual abuse scandal and the Australian, what's it called again? The
Australian Royal Commission.
Yeah, that was like, wow. That was a lot, and that was like, you can't justify that. There's no way you can. And yeah, I just feel so grateful that I got to be one of the people that have woken up. I see it as a true blessing that there's still people in there following this crap, following it, and I'm one of the ones that got away. So I'm so grateful that I did. And it wasn't just what, I think it was like a culmination of things, not one thing like nailing the coffin kind of thing. But I just felt like, I can be free now, because now I know in my mind and my heart that this is not right. It's not true. Because if you were true, I know everyone talks about that Jeffrey Jackson comment about him saying it would be presumptuous for us to say that we were the ones but that's what you guys say all the time. And then when you're confronted with it, then you're like, no, we wouldn't say, we don't say that. It's presumptuous of us to say that. I'm like, wow, really?
Yeah.
But I just realized that everything is, you're made to feel a sinner, you're made to feel lowly and you're not worth anything. Oh, but Jehovah's extending his loving kindness to you, but you'd be nothing without him. And making us feel small to have that control. It's such a evil, clever way of keeping people stuck, And I just feel so glad that I say broke free. I am. However, I still have like those little things that come up sometimes. Like, I guess you do, those things that never go away, or like, why did I say that? Or I'm just trying to fit in and integrate, but I still feel like I've got a witness mind on or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I have to go through different heads So I go
Yeah.
through that JW head. Oh, I don't believe that anymore. Then it's the Lois head, and it's like my who I am now head. Do you know what I mean? I have to go
Yeah.
through different mindsets to actually. It's draining. It can be draining
Mm.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why I think being physically out and mentally in is like the worst place. It's the worst state to be in.
Mm.
Honestly, I was only homey for like just under a year and a half, and it almost killed me. I
Ooh.
can't imagine someone who had been POMI for like decades. And I met someone last week who was POMI for like 20 years. 20 years they were in the world, still thinking it was the truth and not woken up yet. And I
Yeah.
cannot even imagine the toll that must take on your mental health.
Oh my goodness, the toll is immense. I mean, my mum's out. She's not been. I mean, she's never been disfellowship, but she's faded and whatever not. But she still believes parts of it. So even though
Mm,
she's like been out for years, some people don't wake up in the way that we may have necessarily woke up to see what it is.
yeah.
Like they still see it as, she'll still say, "Oh, Jehovah" sometimes, and like refer to, maybe the new system and whatnot. But woken up as in like I've even got family members that are not going anymore that are like my brother, he's fully woken up, and but I've got another cousin that's been out, and they still have guilt. I still have to
Mm,
pray to Jehovah before I eat and stuff like. And it's like even though she knows she will never go back, she still feels guilt. So I still
mm,
feel like she hasn't woken up, and I feel like some people want to be left in that state, and it's not necessarily our job to like take them out of that until they're ready.
absolutely.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the first lessons I learned when I started reconnecting with old friends who had been out long before me, is that not everybody who's out knows what I know about the
Right.
organization, and not everyone who's out is woken up. You know, I learned that lesson in a very, very hard way.
Yeah. Oh,
In a
really?
very hard,
Okay.
yeah, in a very hard way. Would you say that your life has improved since leaving the organization? And if so,
Oh,
how has it
without
improved?
without a doubt. I mean, I wouldn't say I've gone off the rails, but I did kind of go off the rails just to see like I felt like I've missed out on so much, and I had a lot of anger of like
Mm,
being not being able to experience certain things or like being held back that I couldn't. So I just went out and just did everything that I could, or that, you know, that I felt like
mm,
I'll never get those years back. So I'm a lot happier now. I'm a lot more comfortable with myself now. Obviously, I'm never going to be perfect. No one is. I've experienced a lot more. I've traveled a lot more. I've gone back to dancing, which I was always told you couldn't do that. So even though it's taken me the best part of 20 years to get back into my passion, at least I got out soon enough that my legs and my body is still quite is fit enough to to be able to do that. Some people don't get out until their 60s or 70s, and it's too late to do certain,
mm,
you know what I mean? Like I still,
yeah.
in terms of me being able to be active in that way, I'm still able to pursue my passion in that manner. Maybe not in exactly the same way that I would have liked to when I was in my 20s. However, I still have a chance to make money and a career out of doing something that I absolutely love, that I was never been able to, or even had the time to do that, being
Mm,
trapped in that religion.
yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm much happier. I'm much uh happier and accepting of who I am as a person, and I don't feel ashamed to live authentically. I feel at peace with myself, if that makes sense. I
Yes.
feel at
Yeah.
some sort of peace, and I don't feel that guilt. I'm allowed to be me, and I'm not apologizing for that.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Would you ever go back?
At one point, I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, I was that I will go back. I will go back. I just got to get myself. No, in short, no, I will never go back. Oh, because someone did reach out to me. This brother reached out to me because they're allowed to talk to disfellowship people now. Oh, we're coming around for a shepherding visit, and I was like, oh yeah, because I wanted to see him, right?
Mm,
And then I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? I'm just betrayed. Why? 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 And as much as I'd like, I said, I'm only doing it to see you. I said, you know what? I'm never coming back. And I felt so good saying it. I didn't say it in a rude way. I was like, I'm never coming back. So I really find the point of the shepherding call pointless, because I know you'll come. I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll let you show me some scriptures and stuff. I know in my heart that I will never be in that place again. So no, so you can't come round, because I'm just got to do what's right for me now. And that's the way it is. And he was like, you know what? Thank you for saying that, because it was like, for me to say no to a shepherding call was probably, that's it now. I've made it now. Like, I'm actually saying no. I just don't see the point of coming round
Mm.
to try and encourage me to a meeting that I'm never going to come back to. And
Yeah,
that was a powerful moment for me to do that. I felt powerful and empowered. Anyway, yeah, so no, I will not be going back.
that's great. That was like closure for you,
Yeah,
being
yes,
able to tell them
yeah,
that.
absolutely. And I felt I had the strength to say, like, no, I'm a grown woman. I can say what's right or wrong for me. I know you're coming from the right place, but what is right by me, and me not betraying myself, is saying, actually, I'm not actually okay with this. I'm not going to pacify you and make you think you're actually doing some good or coming to class me as some of your ministry. No, I'm not going to come back. So it's actually a pointless exercise what you're going to be doing. I
Mm.
know for a fact in my heart that it's never going to happen. Yeah,
That's great.
a waste of time.
Closure is really, really powerful and cathartic. I remember I had a not quite a similar experience, but I remember what my moment of closure, or one of them, is when I decided that I would never go back. I was still a believer. I hadn't fully woken up yet, but I had found more happiness outside than I ever had inside. So I thought to myself, what would be the point? What would be the point? I was totally fine with being happy for the next 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years, until Armageddon came and then died. Even if it was a short period of time, even if it was just 5 weeks, to
Yeah.
me, it would have been totally worth it.
Yes. That's what I had to say to myself. I'm like, you know what? I just feel like I'm just gonna have to die. I just
Yeah.
can't. I'll just die. I
Yeah.
can't go back to misery. There were some happy moments, but all in all, it was a miserable experience. So, I couldn't give my life up now to go back to that, just to have like
Yeah.
everlasting. No, I'd rather live a fun life and happy life now, and then die Armageddon, than
Yeah.
go through misery and suffering. No, it's that wasn't worth it to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't get to tell the elders that, but I do remember praying to Jehovah and telling him that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
told.
I,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
actually prayed to Jehovah and I said to him, I'm never coming back, because you've never treated me lovingly or with any compassion. I've actually found someone who's treated me with more love and compassion than you ever have. And I'm so much more happier now than I ever was in your organization. So I'm never coming back. And that was my moment of closure for me.
Right. Yeah. You found
So
closure in
telling,
that.
yeah, I found a lot of closure in telling Jehovah that. And then I just went to bed.
Mhm. And you was
Yeah. I
cool
mean,
the next day.
I wouldn't say I was necessarily cool the next day. There was still some really rough times that I went through after that. And I still had to go through the whole waking up process as well,
Okay.
because I was still indoctrinated at that time. But that was a big milestone for me. That was a big milestone for me, being able to close that chapter of my life. There was something very, very powerful in that.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. I never prayed to Jehovah about it. I just, I used to have, I'm sorry. I used to say, I'm sorry, I will be going back. Like, I'd have moments, but the more I avoided him, do you know what I mean? I used to avoid
Mm.
Jehovah, and I'd avoid praying to him because of the guilt and stuff. But I'd have moments of like, I'm sorry. And if I'd be on the balcony drinking or smoking or whatever, I'll be looking up and I think, oh my God, he can see me. Like, I'm right out in the
Mm.
open. Do you know what I mean? He can
Yeah.
see everything. And then I'd just say like, I'm sorry, this won't be forever. And then I just stopped because I felt like
Mm.
I can't do this anymore. I stopped
Mm.
having these conversations in my head to him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. This has really, really been a great conversation.
Thank you. I mean,
Thank you so much. I
thank you.
really
I really
appreciate it.
enjoyed it. No, thank you so much for letting me speak my story. I've probably missed out. You can't cram everything into an hour, can you? You
Of
just, you
course
just
not.
can't. But obviously, there's loads more stuff. But thank you for letting me speak today and express my experience. Thank you.
My pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. And that is it for this week's episode of the Jexit podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, comment, and also subscribe so that you're alerted each time a new episode is posted. Thanks again for tuning in and have a great week.